After a lifetime of hard work and saving, I hoped that, at the end of my days, I could finally enjoy a complete family vacation. That's why I spent $33,000 on a trip to the Maldives, believing I was buying moments of happiness, memories we could all cherish together. But right there at the airport, my son looked me straight in the eye and spoke words that froze me to the core. "Dad, there's no ticket for you. Go home. At your age, you'll only ruin the trip." One sentence, one cold stare, and an entire lifetime of trust was discarded like yesterday's trash. 3 weeks later, when they returned, they never expected to find me waiting for them. And standing beside me was a man in a sharp suit, Rick Nolan, an attorney holding documents powerful enough to bury the entire world they thought they controlled. And from that moment, their lives began to collapse. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a story that stirs the soul. And tell me, what time is it right now where you are? San Francisco International Airport. Cold, sterile white light poured down from the towering ceilings, spilling across polished granite floors. It reflected the lone figure of an older man dragging a worn leather suitcase, an old memento from a 25th wedding anniversary trip. In his hand, a printed plane ticket from 3 months ago, now reduced to nothing more than a meaningless slip of paper. "Dad, maybe you should hear me out before doing something impulsive." The voice behind him was quiet, but razor-sharp, cutting through the morning chill with surgical precision. Bill Carter turned. His son's face was still familiar, but the eyes had changed, distant, avoidant. David stood with his hands buried deep in his coat pockets, tension masked by a carefully constructed calm. "You're not on the list. We made that decision." Decision? The word hit like a brick. Bill stopped walking. His suitcase bumped against the back of his heel. Just ahead, the check-in counter for the Honolulu flight loomed. Other travelers rolled by, wheels clattering on tile, the airport's loudspeakers repeating boarding calls like drumbeats against his skull. "David," Bill said hoarsely, his voice cracking like gravel, "I gave you $20,000 for the whole family, for this vacation. We know, and we're grateful." The reply felt robotic, hollow, a rehearsed line from a cheap play. Bill stepped forward, toward the counter. There had to be a mistake. There had to be a way. "Excuse me, could you check something for me?" The airline staffer in a navy blue uniform greeted him with a professional smile. "Name, please?" "William Carter. There might have been an issue with the reservation." She typed, paused, her face shifted, smile fading. "I'm sorry, sir. There's no one by that name on any of today's flights." Bill looked over his shoulder. David was further back now, near the security gate, and there something flickered in his eyes. A glance exchanged with the agent at the next kiosk, as if they already knew. "Still nothing for William Carter," the woman confirmed. "That can't be. My son David Carter, he and his family are flying today." "Yes, we have 4 travelers booked for 4:15 a.m., but you're not one of them." The floor seemed to tilt. Bill gripped the counter to steady himself. "Put me on standby then. I'll take anything, any seat." "I'm truly sorry," she said gently. "Every flight's full today. There's an international conference in Honolulu." David appeared beside him again. He laid a hand lightly on Bill's arm, not in comfort, but as if to hold him back. "Dad, stop. There's no seat for you." Bill jerked his arm away. "What the hell are you saying? There has to be another way." David's voice dropped low. Calm, cold. "Don't make me choose between my family and the past." Bill stared at him, unable to recognize the boy he'd raised. This wasn't his son. Not anymore. His suitcase tilted, flopped over. A photograph fell out, a family portrait. It skidded across the floor as a child passing by accidentally kicked it. No one bothered to pick it up. "Go home, Dad," David said flatly. "Don't make this harder than it already island." Then he turned and walked toward the gate. The light on the other side was harsh and brilliant, but sterile like the glow in an operating room. And Bill stood alone, on the dimmer side of that divide where a father had just been cut from his own son's life. Overhead, a loudspeaker announced the wrong name, something close to William Carter. His heart jumped. A breath caught in his throat. But no, it wasn't him. It would never be him. David hadn't forgotten to buy his father a ticket. He'd never planned to buy one at all. And in that last moment, under the indifferent gaze of security lights and travelers rushing toward paradise, Bill Carter understood something with brutal clarity. He hadn't been left behind by mistake. He had been erased, discarded like something old and unfitting for the new family picture. Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. Nearly midnight. A thin veil of fog hung beyond the towering windows, casting ghost-like reflections of blinking white lights onto the icy stone floor. Alone in the desolate expanse of Terminal 2, I turned back toward the Japan Airlines counter, the only one still lit at this late hour. The same attendant was still there. Her eyes widened slightly at the sight of my return. "You're back? I guess you haven't heard." I tightened my grip on the worn leather handle of my old suitcase. My breath lodged in my throat. "I need you to check something for me. A reservation under the name David Carter. When was the trip booked?" She hesitated. Her eyes flicked toward the screen above her, where the words, "Final call," were fading into black. Then she tilted her head slightly and typed. The soft glow of the monitor lit her cheekbones serene, distant. "The record shows the trip was booked 41 days ago, at 1:12 a.m. business class. Priority member code, 4 passengers, 2 adults, 2 children. 41 days. Not 3 months ago, when I started planning this family vacation. Not last week, when David looked me in the eye and said, 'Don't worry, Dad, I've got everything wrapped up.' No, this was booked in the dead of night, in a cold hour, as if erasing me had to be done quietly, in the shadows. The booking has never been modified," she added. "Never?" I asked. "Not once." I felt the ground slipping beneath my shoes. My hand braced against the cold metal counter. It felt like someone had just pulled it from my heart. "What about other airlines? Any flights to Honolulu tonight? Tomorrow morning? Any time this week?" Her fingers moved across the keyboard again. With each keystroke, her face grew more apologetic. "United has a standby list of 47 people. Alaska is sold out through the end of the week. I'm afraid we're in conference season." "What about Southwest?" "There is 1 flight. Tonight. 2 layovers. You'd arrive Thursday afternoon. The Fair Island. Steep." "How much?" $1,800. I reached into my pocket for my wallet, then paused. Far in the distance, the LED lights above the Maldivian gate had just gone dark. I imagined David settling into his business class seat, texting his wife, Stephanie. "Boarded. Everything went according to plan. Make sure Dad eats something today. Cold." Mocking. As if I were some confused old man they'd quietly cleared from their lives. "Sir," the attendant said gently, her voice echoing like it came from another room. "It's not your fault, and it's not mine either. Maybe it's just the truth showing itself." I looked at her, the only person who still saw me as a human being and not some inconvenience to be managed. And in that moment I understood. This wasn't a mistake. It was a plan. "Would you like me to hold the Southwest seat for 15 minutes? She asked. "Number? I don't think so." "You're sure?" "I'm sure." Because at that moment, I woke up. This wasn't about a seat on a plane. It wasn't about a vacation. It was about my worth in their eyes. They had done the math. Coldly. They thought I'd just go home. Maybe sulk a bit. Maybe mutter a few things under my breath. But eventually, I'd accept it. They're about to find out they were wrong. I stood still in the long corridor, blue-white light draping over me like something from another world. On the departure screen, Flight 447 changed to departed, a cold full stop, a silent exclamation mark. I walked slowly to the restroom at the far end of the hall. In the mirror, I saw a man soaked from rain, hair clinging to his forehead, face pale and lifeless. But the eyes were no longer defeated. I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app. Begin new plan. Attorney. Rick Nolan, Pacific Financial Tower, 14th floor. Review the will. Revoke spending authorizations. Close all secondary accounts. I slid the phone back into my coat, wiped the last droplet from my cheek. It could have been rain. It could have been a tear that never made a sound. Pulling my suitcase behind me, I stepped out into the main terminal. Beyond the automatic glass doors, Seattle blurred in mist and rain. The wind bit at my skin. But this time, I didn't flinch. This time, I wasn't walking out as a man who'd been left behind. I was walking out as a man who was just beginning his return. Honolulu, 11:00, 4:07 p.m. The evening rain had just passed, leaving the pavement slick and glistening under the dim, amber glow of the lights outside Daniel K. Inouye International Airport. I stood beneath the awning of the International Arrivals Terminal, my only luggage resting quietly by my foot, a worn leather case, its edges frayed from time. It was the same suitcase Martha and I had brought on our honeymoon. Back then, we dreamed of building a family. Today, that very family had pushed me to the outside. A small black limousine pulled up in silence. The door opened. The scent of aged leather and peppermint greeted me, mingling with the damp, heavy air of a Maldives night. I stepped into the dim cabin, feeling as though I was entering a new chapter of life, colder, but clearer. "Where to, sir?" The driver's voice came from the front, middle-aged, deep-set eyes. He never looked up into the mirror. Without blinking, I replied, "Berkeley Hills, the house they've tried to forget." The car pulled away, gliding down the road like a long-held breath finally exhaled. Through the window, the airport blurred into the background, like a stage gone dark after a quiet tragedy. I pulled out my phone. The last message from David was still there. "Boarded. Everything went according to plan. Make sure to eat well, Dad." I stared at the screen and whispered to myself, "That message belongs carved in stone, not sent through cell towers." The driver let out a faint grunt. "You look like a man returning from a family war." "Not a war," I replied, eyes fixed on the streetlights reflected in puddles. "A courtroom, and I was the one on trial for trusting too much." The limousine turned onto Kalakaua Avenue. The night outside seemed endless and thick, like a silence that knew too much. My mind retraced every step from March. David had said, "Let me handle it, Dad. Stephanie knows someone at the agency. We'll book it faster." Loretta whispered, "You'll be more comfortable at a separate hotel. The kids are loud." Stephanie had smiled sweetly, her voice light as air, sharp as glass. Older people usually need a different pace anyway. It was all arranged, not to include me but to exclude me as gently and completely as possible. "You know what the worst part is?" I asked, still staring into the dark. "What's that, sir?" They thought I'd stay silent. Nod. Thank them for leaving me behind. "And you're planning to prove them wrong?" "I've survived 68 years, worked as an engineer for 43, lived through the greatest loss of my life. You think a clumsy betrayal is enough to finish me?" The driver chuckled quietly. "Now you're starting to sound like a man who's thinking straight." My phone buzzed again. A message from Loretta. "Sorry for the mix-up. We'll send you an aloha shirt, something that suits the climate where you should be resting." "The climate where I should be resting?" The words landed like soft soil on a mental grave because they didn't just want to leave me behind. They wanted me to fade away quietly. In the distance, the Golden Gate Bridge emerged in the dark, its blood-red silhouette cutting the sky like a wound that never healed. If they see me as an outsider, I thought, then maybe it's time I truly act like a stranger. As we climbed Grizzly Peak Boulevard, each winding turn felt like the quiet compression of my heart. A deer darted across the road, its eyes caught in the headlights, wide with fear. The same look I wore when David turned to me and said, "Don't worry, Dad. Everything's been prepared." My hand tightened around the handle of my suitcase. The pain was still there, sharp and raw. But beneath the dried blood was something new. Clarity. Cold. Strategic. They thought I'd go home, sigh, grow bitter, slowly fade away in self-pity. But they forgot one thing. I was the one who taught David how to play chess, and this game is far from over. 12:03 a.m. A black Uber slowed to a halt amid the damp mist that clung to the hills of Berkeley. The house I once called home stood before me, quiet and lifeless like a sealed coffin awaiting burial. The street lamp flickered overhead, casting a long shadow behind me, one that looked less like a man and more like a ghost, returning to haunt what once was. The driver never turned to look. His earbuds stayed in. When I closed the door behind me, he said only, "Good luck," or something. The car drifted off into the cold fog, leaving me alone on the threshold between memory and retaliation. The front door groaned as I inserted the key like it resented my return. The doormat was damp, moldy, wrinkled. Just inside, a photo frame lay face down, the glass cracked, a fitting symbol for a father-son bond that had shattered. I stepped inside like a witness returning to the scene of a crime. I didn't turn on the main lights, just the desk lamp, the same one Maggie used to keep on when writing late into the night, penning protest letters to City Hall, never suspecting that one day I would use the very hand she once held to sign the final judgment on the children we raised together. I changed shirts. A gray-blue button-down with neatly rolled sleeves, still carrying the faint trace of lavender from the last wash. "This was Maggie's," I whispered. "She always wore it when she fought for what was right. Tonight, I'll need that spirit." I opened the second drawer and pulled out the folder marked Maldives 2025. My handwriting on the front now felt like a cruel joke. I laid the papers across the desk. One by one, they stared back like cold, clinical evidence in a betrayal trial. 23 documents. The $33,000 wire receipt to David Carter. The confirmation for 10 nights at the Grand Wailea Ocean View Suite. The guest list. David, Loretta, Stephanie, Harold, Mia, Ethan, and Maggie Carter. Maggie. The woman who passed away 3 years ago used to replace me. They didn't even bother to include my name on the trip I paid for. My hand trembled as I picked up the hotel brochure. The image of a family smiling beneath a Maldives sunset now felt lifeless, just ink and paper. Dad will love the ocean view room. The kids will make unforgettable memories. Now, those words echoed like lines from a play I was never cast in. I looked away from the lamp and toward the left side of the desk, where Maggie's old landline still Saturday. I didn't want to use my mobile. I needed something wired, tangible, unmistakable, a declaration of intent. I dialed the Grand Wailea. The receptionist answered quickly. "Aloha, this is Co from Reservations. How may I assist you?" Her voice was gentle, professional, bathed in the warmth of Maldives. But I was no longer gentle. "I'd like to cancel the reservation under the name Carter." "Yes, I see a reservation for 7 guests. Check in tomorrow." "Are you sure you want to cancel? It's a beautiful time to visit." "I'm sure. May I ask why? Perhaps we can—" "There's nothing to fix. This isn't a vacation anymore. It's a funeral. For trust." Silence. Then frantic keystrokes. I could almost hear David's heart racing through her fingers. "Mr. Carter, there's a late cancellation fee of $3,200. $3,200? A small price for justice. Would you like to speak with the manager? Number, I want him to remember this moment. 12:47 a.m., May 16th, the moment I woke up." She paused, then confirmed. "Your reservation has been canceled. A confirmation email will be sent within the hour." "Good. One more thing. When they arrive tomorrow to check in, what will you tell them?" "I'll inform them that the reservation was canceled by the original booker at 12:47 a.m. Pacific Time." "Perfect." I hung up. I looked at the documents strewn across the desk. It was like surveying the wreckage after an earthquake. But then, at the very edge of the table, I noticed a child's crayon drawing Harold's, my youngest grandchild. In it, the whole family stood smiling beneath a palm tree. And me? I was drawn on the outside. Even in the innocent lines of a child's hand, I've already been erased. The digital clock on the wall blinked to 1 a.m. A new day had begun. I stood, buttoned Maggie's shirt. Behind me was darkness. Ahead of me was the truth. 4:45 de la mañana, San Francisco. The sky was swallowed by rain and fog. Droplets tapped rhythmically against the large window of my penthouse apartment, each one a whisper that refused to let go. In the pale glow of a desk lamp, the Golden Gate Bridge appeared faint and distant, its red outline slashed across memory like a scar. I hadn't turned on the overhead lights. Just the reading lamp cast its lone yellow hue onto the aged leather pages of Maggie Carter's notebook. Beside it, an old copper kettle simmered softly, its bubbling like the slow heartbeat of time running out. I wore a slate gray shirt, the same one Maggie used to wear when she debated the mayor about budget cuts to public parks. Tonight, I wore it to prepare for a different kind of battle. A cracked blue ceramic mug, my 60th birthday gift from Maggie, rested warmly in my hand, filled with hot Brazilian coffee. The smell of roasted beans blended with the soft hum of Mahler's Symphony No. 5, playing faintly from an antique radio in the corner. Everything felt like an ordinary morning, but inside me, a storm howled. I glanced over at the rotary phone. The red light blinked. 56 missed calls, all from a number in Maldives. I didn't need to check the messages. I could hear their contents as if they were being shouted into the room. "Dad, please, don't stay silent," they said. "You canceled the booking. How could you?" Stephanie's trembling in the cold lobby. "Mia doesn't understand why you didn't come. We slept on chairs all night. Please don't make us beg. If you still care, fix this." I took a sip of coffee. Perfect. No sugar needed. I pulled out the notebook and opened a new page. The title in red, "A Call from Hell." Then I pressed play on the voicemail. "Dad, I don't know what you think you're doing, but you need to fix it now. Stephanie won't stop crying. The kids are confused. This is cruel, unnecessary, and totally unlike you." "And unlike me?" I smirked. Strange words from someone who told me to go home, like I was excess baggage left on a conveyor belt. I set the mug down and turned to my desk. My hand hovered over the contact page for David Carter. 6 weeks of preparation, $20,000, 3 months planning every detail of a family vacation. And then, cut out of the very trip I paid for. I pressed call. David picked up almost instantly. His voice exploded through the speaker. "Dad, you finally called. What the hell is going on? The hotel said you canceled everything." I calmly pulled the notebook closer. Pen ready. In the background, Loretta Whitman's voice echoed. "David, ask him about the credit card." I spoke, calm and cold. David, how's the vacation going?" "Dad, don't joke. We have nowhere to stay. Do you even know what you just did?" "Actually, I do. Tell me when you plan to leave me behind at the airport. Where exactly did you expect me to vacation?" There was a long silence. Mahler's score turned somber in the background. David's voice returned, strained. "Dad, yesterday was different. Now there are kids involved. Yesterday there was also an old man at an unfamiliar airport with nowhere to go. How is today any different?" "Dad, the kids don't understand. They're innocent." "Inflation. Then tell the grown-ups in the room to explain it to them. You'll regret this if you don't help us." I wrote down his words, verbatim. "You'll regret this." "David, is that a threat?" "I'm promising you every action has consequences, old man." "Old man." I repeated it out loud as I wrote it down. "You're right, actions have consequences. Like betraying someone's trust and losing it forever. You're punishing the kids over a bruised ego? I'm teaching the adults that if you take $33,000 and erase the name of the person who gave it, there will be consequences. We didn't steal anything. You gave the money willingly. We're family, aren't we?" I said nothing. The wind howled against the glass. Down below, the city still slept. But up in this penthouse, the court was in session. David's voice softened, almost pleading. "Dad, listen. Maybe we messed up yesterday. But we can fix this. Just call the hotel. Ask them to reopen the rooms. Please." I replied, voice steeled like a blade. "Number. What did you say?" "Number, just like you said to me yesterday. When you told me, 'There's no way, Dad. Just go home.' You've lost your mind. You're acting like some bitter old man." I ended the call. The winter wind howled through the cracks of the old stone villa, perched in silence on a snow-covered hillside. The gray light of a gloomy Christmas sky barely illuminated the smoke curling lazily from the fireplace. Inside the study, a walnut desk lay buried in documents. A single, warm, yellow ceiling light lit a small circle on the wood, like a sacred spotlight where justice was being summoned. I sat alone in that room, listening to the creak of the floorboards beneath my chair as I flipped through 20 years of evidence of being used. Tuition bills, hospital receipts, loans never repaid. Above the fireplace hung a portrait of young Maggie Carter, her eyes seeming to pierce through the swirling smoke, stern yet understanding. I opened her old wooden box. Inside were handwritten letters, a carefully hidden voice recorder, and a small safe key. Her voice echoed from the recorder. "If the time comes, do what's right, not what's easy." I nodded slowly. The time had come. I remembered David Carter's last phone call. His voice had sliced like a blade. "You have no say in this family anymore. You're just a debt waiting to be cleared." I stared at the handwritten scrawl on the file's cover. "Estate restructure. Urgent." I picked up the phone, the other hand gripping the business card of attorney Rick Nolan like it was a doorway to righteousness. "I want to do something I should have done years ago." One ring, then two. A calm, elderly voice answered, as gentle as a court clerk. "Nolan and Associates. This is Margaret. How may I assist you?" "This is Bill Carter. I need an urgent appointment with Rick. It's about rewriting my will." The appointment was scheduled for Monday morning, right after the Christmas holiday. That night, I slept peacefully for the first time since the airport betrayal. That morning, I drove through the historic streets of San Francisco. Rick Nolan's office was housed in a restored brownstone, oak-paneled walls, towering law bookshelves, a roaring fireplace. The atmosphere didn't feel like a consultation, it felt like a private courtroom, austere and resolute. Rick greeted me with a firm handshake. At 55, he was a man who had built his entire career representing those betrayed by their own families. I laid the evidence across the table like presenting a case to a jury. Bank records, invoices, screenshots of threatening texts. A recording of the call arranged with the precision of an engineer. "My son has shown his true face," I said, "and I need the law to protect me from his greed." Rick flipped through the files, his expression growing colder. "Bill, this is financial coercion. With this evidence, we can remove David from all claims to your estate. I want his name erased completely, and I want everything redirected to where it truly belongs." Rick opened his laptop and began drafting. We discussed the Oakland Children's Education Fund, an engineering scholarship at UC Berkeley, a support program for the elderly, a veterans foundation, all places that would carry forward my values long after I was gone. "The documents will be ready by the end of the week," Rick said. "We'll arrange witnesses, notarization, and video recording to ensure permanent legal validity." I nodded. "As long as it's done, this decision is final." Rick looked me in the eye. "Are you sure? No regrets about the grandchildren?" I glanced at Maggie's portrait. I thought of Mia and Ethan. I'd once thrown birthday parties for them, cooked their dinners, shielded them from their own father. They'll still have a real chance through education and fair opportunity, not from money poisoned by their father's control. Rick smiled faintly. "Then let's begin." As I stepped out of the office and down the snow-covered steps into the flow of holiday crowds, I felt lighter, like I had just ended a war. But I hadn't. It was just beginning. David would soon learn. This time, there would be no call, no bribe, no apology to undo what I'd set in motion. Because this wasn't revenge, this was justice. Justice is not the shout that frightens the weak, it's the silence that terrifies the wicked. Late Friday afternoon, I stepped into a private meeting room on the top floor of a historic administrative building in Telegraph Hill. This very space once served as the working library of my late wife, Maggie Carter. Today, I returned to the place where she once penned reports and built dreams to sign a decision that would permanently alter the course of our family's future. The golden rays of the setting sun pierced through the stained glass windows, casting warm beams across an old mahogany table. On its surface sat not plastic folders, but a dark wooden box containing documents, next to a Mont Blanc fountain pen engraved with the name Martha W., the only personal relic I kept from her time on Earth. My heart slowed as I looked around the table. The air was heavy with finality. To my left sat a silver-haired notary public, her presence composed and formidable, renowned for handling some of the state's most disputed wills. To my right, a young intern lawyer, eyes wide with quiet tension, as though witnessing his first and deepest lesson in human ethics. Across from me sat Rick Nolan, a seasoned attorney and trusted friend, His voice was calm but carried the gravity of a ceremonial oath. "We're not just signing a legal document today, Bill. We're signing a conclusion, a declaration." He opened the will. 23 pages, each line a scalpel, cutting through doubt, transforming pain into legal clarity. Rick looked up, his voice solemn. In full mental clarity and complete understanding of this act, Mr. Bill Carter, a father betrayed, hereby disinherits David Carter from all inheritance, due to repeated abuse of trust and calculated manipulation. The pen scratched across each page like a blade, severing the last remaining thread of bloodline once held together by nothing but name. Every signature, a final verdict irreversible. Rick continued, "Oakland Children's Education Fund, $400,000. UC Berkeley Engineering Scholarship Fund, $300. Senior Services, Veteran Support, and Community Development Organizations, specific allocations as listed. Not out of revenge, but out of a desire to ensure that what I leave behind ends up with those who know the value of gratitude, not those who treat family as a tool." The notary gently pushed her glasses up the bridge of her nose. "Mr. Carter, do you fully understand all the terms outlined in this will?" "I understand perfectly," I answered, my voice steady. "And you are signing this will under no pressure or influence from anyone. No one controls today's decision, not even blood." The young intern slowly activated the video recorder. "Please state your full name and today's date for official recording." "Bill Carter, May 25th, 2025. And you are signing this will of your own free will?" "Yes, I am." The moment slowed. As I leaned forward to place pen to paper, an image flashed through my mind like a cold blade. David at the airport, sunlight glinting off the window glass. His arm wrapped around Stephanie, his back turned to me. No glance back, no goodbye. Just the airport speaker. "Flight 187 now boarding." Crack! The notary's seal struck the paper. A deep red stamp pressed down like a gavel of justice. Everything was now official under California law. Rick handed me a small wooden box containing the sealed copies. "The original will be stored securely in our vault. I suggest you keep one copy in your safe and another within reach." I nodded. "When will they find out?" I asked. Rick looked at me knowingly. "Depends, but if I had to guess, they'll call a family meeting shortly after they land Thursday." I smiled faintly. "Perfect timing." He nodded slowly. Post-crisis family meetings tend to be where masks fall off and true intentions reveal themselves. As dusk fell, I sat in the back seat of a black limousine. The box of will copies rested on my lap. Through the tinted windows, the lights of San Francisco flickered to life behind a veil of purple mist. On the radio, Maggie's favorite classical piece played, Clair de Lune by Debussy. I closed my eyes. I thought of her, and I whispered, "That day, he chose to leave me behind." My hand tightened on the box lid. "Today, I choose to bring justice back just as his mother would have. I was once the father who forgave everything, but today, I sign not as a fool but as a man who can no longer be deceived." 2 weeks passed like a silent interlude before judgment. On the outside, I kept to my usual routines, but inside, I was rehearsing every line, every breath, for what was about to unfold. Tonight, at a private airstrip on the outskirts of San Francisco, everything had been prepared for a reckoning. Bruce stood beside me, holding a beautifully lacquered wooden box. Inside it was the revised will, sealed in wax, the ink still a vibrant blue on gold-tinged paper. "The plane just landed," Bruce murmured, the ceiling lights reflecting off his glasses. 9:45 p.m. The runway lights flickered faintly beyond the glass, cold as starlight over a field of silent snow. David Carter's family emerged from the aircraft, still cloaked in the shimmer of their Maui vacation. Stephanie wore her signature wide-brimmed hat, Loretta looked delicate in pastel dresses, and the kids carried souvenir bags stuffed with beach trinkets. Mia spotted me first. "Grandpa." She dashed toward me, a plastic ukulele slung over her shoulder. Ethan followed, his face lit up like a sunrise. I knelt down, embracing their tiny arms, feeling the pure, unconditional love only children offer. Then I looked up. David stood across the tarmac. The moment he saw me beside Bruce, something in his confident stride faltered, like a mask slipping. "Dad?" "Just here to welcome you back to reality," I said calmly. "You left me behind at the airport, David. I thought you might need a reminder." Bruce stepped forward. He placed the wooden box in David's hands and opened it. Inside lay the will wax sealed, signed in blue ink, on soft ivory parchment. Effective May 25th. Legally binding. Irrevocable. David tore into the envelope, flipping through the pages. His eyes scanned, widened, then bulged. Confusion, panic, rage. "You can't do this, David," I said gently. "You tore up the old will at the security gate that day. I'm just the man who swept up the pieces." Loretta tried to interject. "Can't we talk about this? Please think of the children." I looked at Mia and Ethan again. "Because of them, I did this. So they grow up knowing betrayal is never a path to inheritance." David roared, "I'll sue you! You'll die alone in that damn house!" I turned and walked out of the terminal. The runway lights receded behind me. "Better that," I said over my shoulder, "than live among those who buried me while I still breathed." Bruce followed. We stepped into the car. San Francisco twinkled faintly in the rearview mirror. Beside me, the wooden box with a duplicate of the will sat like a vow carved in oak. Inside the house, the lights were on. Maggie Carter's old clock ticked steadily, marking the end of an era. I shut the door, put on the kettle, scrambled some eggs, and toasted a slice of bread. No more schedules, no more pressure. Just the things that are simple, true, and worth it. Family is still family, but now I look at them without pain. On a quiet hill in Carmel by the sea, where the pines whisper through thin fog and the waves below hum a distant lullaby, a small cabin stands tucked away from the world I once knew. In its living room, clad in dark pine wood, a soft golden glow from a reading lamp casts a gentle circle of warmth against the chill of the night. I sat in a faded canvas armchair, the only thing left from Maggie's time, beside a crackling stone fireplace. On the mantel above, a black and white photograph of Maggie watched me with that familiar soft gaze. I lifted a crystal brandy glass and tapped it gently against a silver coaster before taking a slow sip. The warm burn down my throat felt like the calm after a war won not with weapons, but with quiet dignity. If Maggie were here tonight, she wouldn't need to say a word. Her eyes would say it for her. "You finally remembered who you are." And I would nod. 3 years of solitude, of endurance, of hoping it all ended with a door quietly closing on those who once exploited my trust. The rotary phone on the side table was coated in dust. I hadn't touched it since the night I walked away from the airport. Somewhere on the other end, David is still calling, still chasing the illusion that an apology could undo time. But some lessons can't be taught, only lived, and he is learning the hardest way possible. Tomorrow, I'll call the right places: the Oakland Children's Education Fund, the UC Berkeley Tech Scholars Program, the Senior Support Network. The money I once thought would go to my descendants will now fuel dreams more deserving. It will become a first violin for a factory worker's child, a textbook set for an ambitious engineering student, a warm meal and an hour of conversation for an elderly soul forgotten by their kin. The fire cracked softly, echoing my resolve. Once, I was the man left at the airport. Tonight, I am the man who left them behind, in the past. Somewhere across the bay, David and his family are likely reeling, Stephanie likely stunned, Harold scheming, Loretta scrambling to hold their collapsing illusion together, and David, the man who laughed at me at the gate, is discovering the price of every action. Tomorrow brings sunlight and legal letters, birdsong and the ring of a lawyer's call. But none of it holds fear anymore. The curtain has fallen. The ones who thought they were the playwrights are now mere spectators. And I, the man once without a role, am the one who rewrote the script. I sat there, fire popping gently, mist brushing the porch outside. I didn't need a victory song. Maggie didn't need to witness it. She had always been the lighthouse guiding me through the storm of betrayal. And now, that light has brought me home. One place, one man, one life, fully mine. Justice is not loud. It's the quiet after the final word has been spoken, after the last door has closed. In the end, I finally understood this. Sometimes, the greatest loss isn't about money. It's when you allow someone to trample your dignity. A family cannot be built on betrayal, and love should never become an excuse for manipulation. I chose justice over silence. I chose self-respect over submission. And that, my friend, is the message I want to leave you with. Value yourself, because if you don't stand up for your worth, no one else will do it for you. If this story touched you, leave a positive comment below and share what lesson spoke to your heart. Would you choose fairness or keep suffering in silence? Share your thoughts so we can all reflect together. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the next video just below. There are more powerful stories waiting to be told.